Leica Q3. The Leica Q3 looks stunning, like the supermodel at a camera party. Yet once you get your hands on it, the autofocus stalls like a grandpa taking a nap, and you will grumble about paying a premium for features that feel more 2020 than 2025. Still, the image quality does sparkle, build is ironclad, and street photographers will adore cruising around with an IP52 rated weather-sealed beauty. Just keep telling yourself the missing features are quirks, not shortcomings. At a price flirting with €7,000 and only one memory slot, this heritage piece is best for collectors who love polishing lenses, not chasing action. 5 out of 10. Sony A7R V. If megapixels were muscles, the Sony A7R V would bench press your entire photo portfolio and then politely ask for more. This thing is a 61 megapixel monster that spits out images with so much detail, you will spot every stray hair on a squirrel's tail. The autofocus is basically psychic, locking onto subjects you did not know existed, though it will make your computer sweat with those hefty file sizes, so upgrade your hard drive or cry quietly in your workflow cave. Not built for casual shutterbugs, but pro shooters will swoon. Honestly, if this camera flossed your teeth, it would get a perfect score. 9 out of 10. Canon EOS R6 Mark II. The Canon EOS R6 Mark II is that reliable friend who never flakes. Blazing fast bursts up to 40 frames per second, autofocus so sharp it finds your dog before you do, and low light performance that makes night feel like day. Sure, 24.2 megapixels might sound modest compared to competitors, but that is half the secret to its buttery, noise-free files and excellent colors. Plus, your hard drive will not explode from oversized RAWs. With super speed, strong ergonomics, and a sensible price, you will want to bring this everywhere, though it lacks the flashy punch of the latest flagship beasts. 8 out of 10. Nikon Z9. This beast packs nearly 46 megapixels, shoots 8K video till your memory card cries uncle, and can track everything from puppies to planes using autofocus that is smarter than your average toddler. The build is so beefy, you might mistake it for gym equipment, and after a day lugging it around, your biceps will thank you, or curse you. Its autofocus sometimes blinks during action, so you may end up with a few blurry shots of your dog mid-zoomy, but for pro sports and high-res drama, it is top tier. 8 out of 10. Leica M11 Monochrome. This sleek chunk of metal delivers 60 megapixels of pure black and white magic, and every snap feels like you just time-traveled to the golden age of photography, minus the cigarette smoke and trench coats. Forget color, this thing is allergic, but the detail is so sharp, it is like you have been gifted X-ray vision, and high ISO performance means nighttime street shots look crisp even after midnight snacks. Just be ready to remortgage your house, and remember, if grandma asks why everything is in grayscale, blame art school. 6 out of 10. Sony A7CR. 61 megapixels in a body so compact it sneaks into your jacket pocket. Sony says hello to gorgeous detail, lightning-fast autofocus, and colors that make sunrise jealous, all without breaking your wrist. But with just one card slot and a viewfinder that feels a bit like peering through a keyhole, you may wonder if tiny can truly be mighty on a long shoot. Still, if you want landscape photos sharper than your neighbor's new haircut and vlogs with Sony's fancy AI tracking, you will not find more pixels per gram. 7 out of 10. Sony A7 IV. The Sony A7 IV is like finding a perfectly crispy fry at the bottom of the bag, unexpectedly delightful, with autofocus so sticky it could hang wallpaper and menus that actually make sense for real humans. Its 23 megapixel images are sharp and video pops, but you pay for it, and that 4K 60 frames per second mode comes with a crop that's about as welcome as a commercial break in the middle of your favorite show. Still, as an all-rounder, it's the camera you grab when you can't decide. Unless you live for burst shots, then maybe eat the fry and keep looking. 8 out of 10. Nikon Z8. The Nikon Z8 is the action hero who skipped leg day, packed with jaw-dropping 45 megapixel shots, autofocus that locks onto eyes like a starstruck teenager, and colors so pretty you'll forget Photoshop exists. At 20 frames per second, it shoots faster than a caffeine-fueled squirrel, but the body is hefty enough to turn your camera bag into unwitting gym equipment. It's the dream machine for professionals who don't mind a little arm workout, but casual strolls beware. You might need a massage after all those epic portraits. 9 out of 10. Panasonic Lumix S5. The Lumix S5 II struts in with a sturdy build and phase detection autofocus, finally joining the cool kids club. Video shooters can record until the cows come home and never worry about overheating, making it ideal for anyone who likes pushing buttons purely for sport. Image stabilization is so good you could handhold at 2 seconds and still feel like a ninja. But the JPEGs straight out of camera are a snooze, so RAW fans only need apply. Its compact size makes life easy, but no amount of charm can distract you from the dull default colors. If you want instant pop, bring your own editing party. 7 out of 10. Nikon Z6 III. Jumping straight to action with the Nikon Z6 III, This camera packs a speedy autofocus, a beefy 5 million dot viewfinder, and video skills that will make even your dog's TikTok pop, but its new partially stacked sensor leaves dynamic range feeling more like decaf than espresso in the lab. If you love control wheels and comfy handling, you will adore this one. But trying to push the raw files too far in editing is like squeezing orange juice from a lemon. It just does not deliver that Z9 level punch. Still, the Z6 III is the full-frame all-rounder that oozes versatility, even if a few cracks show when you pixel peep. 8 out of 10. Canon EOS R5 Mark II. The Canon EOS R5 Mark II is like a caffeinated cheetah, grabbing sharp photos at 30 frames per second, locking onto eyeballs and animals faster than you can say wildlife, and slapping a 45 megapixel stacked sensor into your hands for cropping galore. But the battery fizzles out sooner than your grandma's hearing aid. Sure, the eye control autofocus can be a diva sometimes, but the pro-quality 8K video and upscaling magic will spoil anyone craving details, even if your wallet starts sweating at checkout. If you can stomach the chunkier price and your subjects never nap, it is a beast to beat. 9 out of 10. Sony A7C II. Sony's A7C II packs a full-frame punch inside a travel-loving body, and while it delivers crispy 33 megapixel shots and face-detecting autofocus worthy of a robot butler, it skips luxuries like dual card slots and a joystick. So if you are a heavy hitter, one missed button might have you crying at the wedding. The menu system plays hard to get, and the flash is as slow as grandma at a crosswalk. But the compact build, decent price, and buttery stabilization make this a tempting bonbon for globetrotters and content creators alike. For advanced shooters who demand more, this one is nice, but not knockout. 7 out of 10. Sony A9 III. This camera is like a caffeinated squirrel with a global shutter, snapping 120 frames per second and making sports shooters feel like they have superpowers. But hand it low light and it gets crankier than your uncle at a family reunion, with a bit of extra noise creeping into the shadows. The autofocus practically reads your mind, but the 24 megapixel resolution feels a little old school for anyone craving huge prints or intense cropping, and the buffer sometimes takes a nap just when the action peaks. If you want speed and bravado in a smaller package, and you are not hunting for breathtaking landscapes, this is your turbocharged ticket. But I am docking points for the quirky compromises. 7 out of 10. Panasonic Lumix S1H. Here is your Hollywood director fantasy machine, tossing out luscious 6,000 by whatever pixel video with more dynamic range than a soap opera, and letting you film all night without melting down, thanks to an actual fan instead of wishful thinking. Shooting stills is fine, but this beast is a cinema tool first, so strap on a tripod and yell action, and do not expect featherweight travel, because the S1H brings more heft than your gym's kettlebells. Autofocus gets a little nervous in the dark. And let us be real, wedding photographers are not the main fan base, but if you are shooting your next indie masterpiece, grab this tank and roll camera. 8 out of 10. Panasonic Lumix S5 IIX. The S5 IIX wants you to have it all. Fabulous video features that make live streamers, YouTubers, and budding filmmakers drool, and shockingly solid stills for a camera that probably wakes up thinking about codecs. You get fancy autofocus that finally contends with hyper kids and unruly dogs, though in darkness, it might lose a staring contest with a garden gnome. And dynamic range is impressively wide, so your creative dreams can survive even your worst exposure mistakes. Sadly, it is not exactly pocket-sized, and the video wizardry is overkill if all you need is birthday party snaps. But if you juggle content and crave flexibility, the S5 IIX is your eager sidekick. Just do not skip leg day. 8 out of 10. Canon EOS R8. Canon apparently thought, let's slap pro-level autofocus and a full-frame sensor into a body so light you'll think it's made of marshmallows. And hey, they nailed it. Except for the tragic absence of in-body stabilization, which leaves your hands looking like you're auditioning for jazzercise. The burst mode is so fast it might catch your dog sneezing, but the battery lasts about as long as your favorite song. And don't expect fancy weather sealing or dual card slots at this price. You'll love the images, but you'll wish the camera loved you back. So it's a solid 6 out of 10. Canon EOS R3. The Canon EOS R3 is what happens when Canon lets mad scientists loose, delivering eye-controlled autofocus so futuristic it feels like Jedi-level sorcery, plus a stacked sensor that snaps action at 30 frames per second without breaking a sweat. Built like a tank and priced to match, it's ready for sports, wildlife, or photographing your cat's zoomies, but most mortals will cry over the price tag faster than its shutter speed. Wildly impressive for pros, but for everyone else, it's a platinum trophy in a gold-plated box. So I'm going with a reluctant 8 out of 10. Nikon Zf. The Nikon Zf waltzes in dressed like vintage royalty while packing a 24-megapixel sensor and autofocus so good it tracks everything from squirrels to speeding toddlers, plus handles low light like a night owl on espresso. Video is covered, stabilization is strong, and you even get pixel shift for those who want to feel extra, but the dual card slots micro SD side-eye and the handling quirks might leave you muttering in frustration during long shoots. Gorgeous, clever, and full of charm. But you'll be thinking twice on ergonomics, so it's a cool 7 out of 10. Sony A1 II. If your wallet is as deep as your ambitions, the Sony A1 II storms onto the scene with 50 million pixels, blistering burst speeds, and autofocus so clever it practically reads your mind. You get everything from 0.008 of a second shutter speeds to 8,000 video, making even squirrels in a thunderstorm look sharp. But at a price tag taller than most tripods, you might want to sell your old lenses and your house just to afford this precision beast. 9 out of 10. Sony A7S III. This camera is the nocturnal animal of the lineup, grabbing crisp shots in the darkest corners and serving up video smoother than your morning coffee, thanks to legendary low-light prowess and frame rates for days. Colors pop, autofocus bites, and your shaky hands get treated to some top-tier stabilization, so your footage doesn't look like it was filmed during an earthquake. But at this price, you better love shooting in the dark, or you might wake up wishing you bought a vacation instead. 8 out of 10. Sony A7 II. If you want full-frame goodness on a shoestring, the A7 II's 24 million pixels, solid stabilization, and classic Sony charm are still kicking. Just don't expect lightning-fast bursts or 4K video, because they are taking the day off. Handling is chill for casual snappers and hobbyists, and you can grab one for less than a fancy dinner, but the single card slot and sluggish autofocus will have pros sprinting for the exit. Buy it for laid-back weekends, not for chasing action. 5 out of 10. Pentax K-1. This beast feels like it was carved from granite, and it is so rugged you could shoot photos in a hurricane. Just make sure the wind does not blow you away before the camera does. The 36-megapixel sensor packs in delicious detail, and the weather sealing means this thing is basically a tank dressed in camera clothing. But autofocus here is more nap time than race car. So if you plan to shoot anything that moves, maybe pack a pillow. 6 out of 10. Nikon Z5. The Nikon Z5 is the bargain magician of full-frame mirrorless, stealing the show with handling that feels fancy while your wallet takes zero damage. Its 24-megapixel sensor plays nice with low light, and image stabilization keeps your shaky hands from ending up on a meme page. But do not expect fast burst speed unless you are photographing glaciers. If you want to shoot video, get ready for a crop and some performance that makes you nostalgic for the early 2000s. 7 out of 10. Canon EOS 5D Mark II. Canon's 5D Mark II is basically grandpa at the party, proud of its cinematic style and image quality that makes pet photos look like movie posters. But you are stuck with chunky CF cards, no touchscreen, and autofocus that sometimes feels like playing tag with a blindfolded toddler. Fantastic colors and bokeh are heavenly, but if you love convenience or fast action, you are better off putting your money elsewhere. 5 out of 10. Sony A7 III. This camera snaps portraits so crisp, you could use them for a potato chip ad, and the autofocus hunts down eyeballs faster than I find snacks at midnight. The grip is comfy, the body is light, and the dynamic range pulls more detail than your grandma at a family reunion. If you want affordable pro power that does almost everything, this one slaps. 9 out of 10. Nikon D800. Nikon's D800 packs enough megapixels to spot new galaxies in your selfies, and the build quality is so tough you could probably use it to hammer nails. Do not actually try. It's great for slow, deliberate shooters, but fast action fans will find the autofocus slower than a Monday morning. Plus, high ISO noise creeps in like distant relatives at Thanksgiving. For old-school style and pixel peeping, it still delivers, but it is outpaced in the modern mirrorless race. 6 out of 10. Panasonic Lumix S9. The S9's video game is a knockout, shooting sharp 6,000 pixel movies and rocking creative color controls, but the missing viewfinder and headphone jack mean you are filming blind and listening to nothing but your own existential dread. That pretty little body will charm travel vloggers, yet the overheating and awkward lens choices make it more first date than lifelong commitment. Panasonic tried to impress at the mirrorless party, but forgot its keys and its shoes. 5 out of 10. Nikon D610. The Nikon D610 hears the words mirrorless and politely bows out, because this old-school full-frame dyno is still strutting around with a mirror in 2025, looking a bit like someone who brought a flip phone to a TikTok meetup. Its image quality is decent for a retro ride, but there is no fast autofocus, no fancy tracking, and absolutely no silent shooting here, unless you count the sound of millennials wincing. Save this one for your grandfather's nostalgia drawer because, in the world of modern mirrorless powerhouses, it just feels like bringing a tricycle to a superbike race. 2 out of 10.